Hey y'all, I'm Cece, and I've bought a lot of books so far this year. Right now it is August, and I haven't talked about any of the books that I have acquired yet in 2021, so I have kind of a stack going at this point. And I thought I would share those titles with you now. I counted these up, and I believe I have 62 books total to talk about for the first 6 months of 2021. I'm gonna cut this up by like half the year, and maybe I'll talk about this again at the end of 2021. And I have split these up by genre, so maybe you can end up finding something that you're interested in reading as we go through a genre you really care about. I have a lot of genres to cover, and the stack that I just so happen to have closest to me within reach is the contemporary leaning to romance stack. Contemporary books by far had the, they make up the bulk of these books, so I wanted to split them up by books that focus a little bit more on romance versus books that maybe have a romance, but that's not the central point of the book. But before we do that, I do have one other thing to say, so I'm going to hand it over to myself to say that. Hey there! Dropping in for just a second. I am going to be getting back to all of the books that are missing from behind me and are stacked around me in just a second. But first I had to let you know that this video is sponsored by Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community for creative and curious people. On Skillshare, you can take thousands of classes in design, photography, freelancing, and so much more. And with there constantly being new classes added all the time, there is always something new that you can learn. I've talked about a variety of classes that I have loved, that have helped me in the last couple of years, and I wanted to take a second and recommend another class. I recently took this class, Start Your Creative Career, a class all about how to build a smart online presence, which is something I've had to do and had to kind of teach myself over the last 10 years or so of being an online creative. It's so incredible after years of teaching myself these kinds of things that there are classes that are just available that I can take that can help guide me on new processes, because I am working on an entirely new creative endeavor, which I have never tried before, so more info on that later, but this class was incredibly helpful with starting that. I get so into the creative aspect and I kind of lose track of the elements that are necessary to build a career out of creating stuff online, and I always appreciate when a class can help me really hone in on those things that I kind of like space out with. Skillshare Premium will get you unlimited access to this class and all of the classes available on Skillshare's platform, plus the first 1,000 people who click the link in my description are going to get a free 1-month trial of Skillshare Premium. So if you're interested in that, go ahead and click the link in the description, join Skillshare, and start learning today. Alright, with that, I'm going to hand it back over to myself, really, to continue talking about the ridiculous number of books that I've purchased so far in 2021. Welcome back! Thank you all so much for supporting me and all of the sponsored content that I've had lately. It has gone so far in making this channel possible, so I really appreciate it if you guys can support the people who sponsor me. It lets them know that I'm worth supporting. Thank you for watching sponsored videos, because otherwise I wouldn't be able to make bookish content, so I really appreciate it. Anyway, first up I have to talk about a book that I actually did an entire reading vlog for. And that is Never Kiss Your Roommate by Philene Harms. This was sent to me by Wattpad Books, so I could do that reading vlog, and it was a ridiculous amount of fun, and a ridiculous thing that I got to work with Wattpad, like... In what world? They actually sent me 2 copies of this book, so this is the finished paperback copy. Get a look at that. They also sent me an ARC, which I actually have loaned to my sister right now. Never Kiss Your Roommate has 2 central love stories, and it follows 2 central characters. They are new students and new best friends at this boarding school, where there is this anonymous chitter-chatter blog where the watcher constantly reveals people's secrets. And at this boarding school, Noelle starts to find herself drawn to her standoffish roommate. I've just realized I've been saying the wrong name. Evelyn. Evelyn starts to fall for her standoffish roommate, Noelle. I'm sorry, I loved Noelle in this book so much that I'm just like copy-pasting her name onto other characters. YA romance with an FF love story, a MM love story. You have bisexuals, you have a lesbian main character, there's a pansexual character. It's a ton of fun. I loved reading this for that reading vlog I did, which is totally spoiler-free. Thank you again to Wattpad Books for sending me this and the ARC. So good. Next we have Indestructible Object by Mary McCoy. This is about a girl who is doing a podcast with her boyfriend, and then they break up, so she decides to start a new podcast with a new friend and an old friend, which leads to various things. This is a podcast that basically covers whether or not love exists, and the main character is bi, and this is like a polyamorous YA book. This was sent to me by Simon & Schuster, which is going to be a theme. I have so many books from Simon Teen. They have completely spoiled me in 2021. In that vein, we have Misfit in Love by S.K. Ali. This is also from Simon Teen, and it is S.K. Ali's third book. I have all 3 of her books, and I have not read a single one, and it's not... I need to fix it. This is about a girl who is excited to be going to her brother's summer wedding for a variety of reasons. I mean, she's happy for her brother, but also this guy is gonna be there who she has feelings for. The last time they talked, she couldn't reciprocate feelings. Now she can. It's gonna be great. She gets to the wedding and he is not treating her like he used to. And there are some new dreamy guys at the wedding, and that's adding to the confusion. From what I've heard, this is a rom-com, or at least a book that starts out as a rom-com, but ends up getting a lot more into grief and culture and family, and is super steeped in like Muslim tradition and characters. Plus, this just has such a delightful cover. We also have All Kinds of Other by James C. So All Kinds of Other is a YA book following Jack and Jules. And Jules, I believe, is new at school. Basically, he had a bad situation at his old school. It was a bad situation even before he came out, and he's hoping to just kind of, like, stay under the radar. Jack is also new at this school, and he is also excited to be starting over for various reasons. And then some videos come to light that connect Jack to a couple of trans vloggers, and some other stuff about Jules' history comes to light, and neither of them can be quite as under the radar as they had hoped. It's got like that kind of Simon versus the Homo sapiens agenda feel to it. Not that Becky Albertalli has like the lockdown on queer books that have email and text transcripts, but it's got that feeling, you know? Very excited to read this one as well. This one was sent by HarperCollins and Epic Reads, so thank you so much to them. We also have Rise to the Sun by Leah Johnson. Leah Johnson had a book last year called You Should See Me in a Crown, which I absolutely loved. I don't know a ton about this except for the fact that it is an FF romance, and it is a book about 3 girls at a music festival. I love a good romance that's super setting inspired, and along with this book they sent me the cutest package of stuff. They sent this like pass to go to the music festival that the book is set at, but like it came with this fun like lanyard that's themed with this music festival. Also included this like fun bandana and this pair of yellow heart-shaped sunglasses that I have been taking pictures with so often. I just did a bunch of them for Instagram because they're so beautiful. If this book is even close to as good as You Should See Me in a Crown, I'll be happy, but from what I've heard, it's gonna be better. Next up, we have The Henna Wars. This is by Adiba Jaigirdar. This was a gift from a friend for my birthday. So The Henna Wars is about a girl named Nishat. She is a Bengali Muslim lesbian, and her family loves her, they embrace her, they want her to be who she is as long as that is not a lesbian. So that's part of this book. The other part of this book is that there is a school project where students have to start like a mini business, and Nishat decides that she is going to start a henna business. And then a girl in her class who she has a crush on, who is not Desi, decides that she's also going to have a henna business. Nishat has several problems with this. I also have 2 books that I purchased at Value Village, I believe. I think these are both Value Village purchases. They are adult romances that I know very little about. So we have The Wedding Date by Jasmine Guillory. This was big a couple of years ago on BookTube. Oh, this one also involves going to a wedding. I mean, it's literally called The Wedding Date, but I'm hoping at some point soon when my will to read returns that I can do like a popular or highly recommended romance reading vlog. I'll let you know when we get there. The other one that I got at the same time is The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren. Christina Lauren comes like so highly recommended. I read their book, Autobiography, which is a YA book. It's a YA male-male romance that is very much dealing with sexuality and being Mormon, which, hey, that's me. That book just captured a lot about Utah culture, Mormon culture, feelings about sexuality that happen when you're raised LDS, that kind of stuff. I believe this is also related to a wedding. I mean, it's called The Unhoneymooners. It's not, oh my god, what is with me? It's related to a wedding. And it is about 2 characters who don't like each other, and then the bride and groom who are supposed to go on their honeymoon can't, and these 2 end up going on the honeymoon instead. Maybe I need to do like a wedding romance reading vlog or something, because apparently I have a lot of them. The last romance I have was my #1 most anticipated release of the year. Have I read it yet? No, because I can't get myself to read, but someday soon. So it's One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston. Casey wrote Red, White, and Royal Blue, which, you know, is that book. This is about a girl named August who is a 23-year-old who has just moved to New York City, and then she meets this girl on a train. And this girl, her name is Jane, and she's butch, she's wearing this rocker jacket, she seems really cool, August thinks she's amazing, and it turns out Jane has literally been displaced in time from the 1970s and is only able to appear to August on this subway car. And it's an FF romance from Casey McQuiston. I can't even express to you the number of ways that I'm going to be obsessed with this book, and the fact that it appeals to everything about me. Alright, so we have a bunch more contemporary books that are not romance focused, and I don't know what a ton of these are about. First we have The Sky Blues. This is by Robbie Couch, and this was sent to me by Simon & Schuster. I'll talk about all the Simon & Schuster books as a collective. So I was talking about like Simon versus the Homo sapiens agenda comparisons earlier. I'm gonna bring it up again. The Sky Blues is about a guy named Sky who decides to just say, fuck it, senior year, do whatever he wants to do, and he's going to have this ridiculous promposal for this guy that he has a crush on. And then someone hacks his email, leaks it, and he's exposed to a ton of homophobic bullshit. So he's planning on skipping town, and then the entire town turns this into a challenge to try to track down this homophobic asshole who hacked Sky's account, and they're turning it into a wonderful positive 30-day countdown to this beautiful promposal. Sounds delightful. We also have When We Were Infinite by Kelly Loy Gilbert. Kelly Loy Gilbert is another author where I have multiple of her books and I really want to read them, and I just haven't had the chance yet. Picture Us in the Light, I've heard, is incredible. I think this shares a lot of similarities with Picture Us in the Light in that it is about a group of friends who are incredibly close. There is potentially a romance, and then a particular moment changes everything for this group of friends, and they have to come together for a particular reason. That's pretty much how you could describe each of these. This one is about this group of friends witnessing an act of violence in one of their friends' homes, and what that does to this group of friends. I'm sure it's going to break my heart. I've also heard Picture Us in the Light is going to break my heart, but I'm sure it's going to be amazing as well. The other books I have here from Simon & Schuster are Yoke by Mary H.K. Choi. I don't know anything about this book except for the fact that I think it's dealing with grief, but can I just show you how gorgeous this book is? So first of all, we've got the cover, and then the spine is their hands reaching out. There's the back. The spine says yoke. It looks like this. It's gorgeous. And then under the cover, you still have the effect of the girls holding hands. It's so stunning. We have another one of my most anticipated of the year, Bruised. This is by Tanya Bateju, who also wrote Kings, Queens, and In-Betweens. If you haven't read it, it's a really interesting coming-of-age YA book that also includes a lot of, like, drag culture. This is about a girl who has been dealing with stuff in a variety of ways, and then she happens upon the world of roller derby and really immerses herself in that as she's figuring out her grief, her experiences with being a survivor. It sounds like it has a lot of tonal similarities to Kings, Queens, and In-Betweens in that it's about a messy teen of color getting really into a particular aspect of queer culture that kind of helps them center themselves, figure themselves out. Concept I'm very into, so also Sapphic roller derby, holy shit, amazing. So I do have another thing here from the same friend who sent me the Henna Wars, and that would be Kiss number 8. This is by Colleen A.F. Venable and Ellen T. Crenshaw. This is about a girl who has a bunch of stuff going wrong in her life right now. Things are getting messy and complicated, and she ends up kissing a bunch of people, and that's part of her working through whatever she's figuring out. And this is also super queer. It's black and white. It's got some fun art. And y'all know I appreciate a book that's just, like, messy. We also have Honey Girl by Morgan Rogers. This is up there with One Last Stop in terms of my, like, top 5 most anticipated books. This is about a woman who recently completed her PhD in astronomy, and she goes to Vegas to party with her friends and wakes up married to a woman she barely knows. So she abandons the life that she has set for herself in Portland for a whirlwind summer romance, kind of, with her new wife. Really, it's just an excuse to get to know her new wife. And this is about that. It's about the romance, but also it's about this messy coming-of-age period where this woman has finished her PhD and, like, now what? Very familiar with the concept of now what. So, oof. I have another Sapphic book here that was sent to me by a publisher, and that would be All Are Welcome by Liz Parker. This is about a woman named Tiny who never thought she would get married, mostly because girls from her town didn't go on to marry other girls. But that's out the window. Tiny has found the woman of her dreams. She's going to get married now. She's going to have this incredible destination wedding. And then when they get there, a bunch of stuff goes wrong and things are weird and there are secrets being kept and a person from Tiny's past shows up. I did a picture for Instagram for this book, so that was really fun, but hopefully I can read it soon too. Sometimes I get emails and people are like, hey, this is about a lesbian destination wedding, and I'm just like, yes, send it to me. Yeah, here's everything. Send that. Yes, please. Speaking of things where when they got sent to me, I was like, yes, send that to me. Please, please, please send that to me. Kate in Waiting by Becky Albertalli. This came out back in April, I think, and again, I wound up taking a picture for this because there was a pre-order thing available with this cute little necklace. This is about two best friends, Kate and Anderson, who love each other and they love theater, and then the guy that they're both crushing on moves into their school, and it might just be the thing that really starts to test their friendship. I've brought up Simon versus the Homo sapiens agenda several times in this video, so I think it's appropriate that I have a Becky Albertalli book in the stack. I am sure this is going to be super Jewish, super queer, delightful. It's probably going to talk about anxiety and theater, and I'm going to be obsessed with it. So I also have a few books here that I got at the Goodwill. We have American Housewife. This is Stories by Helen Ellis. This is a book I read a while ago, and I just never had my own copy. This is a collection of, like, dark, sarcastic stories about being an American housewife. I don't hear about this book all the time, but it's a really fascinating collection, and I happened to see this at, I don't even remember if it was a Goodwill, a Half Price Books, but I was so happy that I could have a copy. I also got Late to the Party. This is by Kelly Quindlen, and I got this at a Value Village, I think. I only know that this is a YA book with a lesbian main character. She meets a gay guy, and the two of them hit it off and become best friends. And I live for queer people, like, in a book, meeting at an event and just being like, oh my god, this is not for us. We have to be on the same side. We also have a book. This book has been on a journey. Modern Lovers by Emma Straub. This book I bought at the Goodwill, and then I gave it to my sister to read because I thought she'd love it, and then she loved it so much that she was like, no, you do have to read it. So I took it back. So this is about a group of friends who have been friends for years, and they've grown up, they're all in their 50s, and it's following them and what's going on in their lives, and it's following their kids who are now starting to come into their own and are maybe starting to date each other. I know that there's a character who's queer for sure because it's mentioned, like, in the description. Yeah, Zoe was the lesbian all the straight women wanted to sleep with. Fascinating considering my sister's name is Zoe. Just keep giving my sister books about queer characters named Zoe. Why does everyone keep naming their queer character Zoe? That's all I know about Modern Lovers. I thought maybe I would like it, but with such rave reviews from my sister, now I'm sure I'm going to love it, so I'm happy to have this back in my possession. And then we have a couple of books I purchased for Pride that are contemporary. So we have Spy Stuff by Matthew J. Metzger. This has been on my, Amazon wish list for years. It's been on that list. When you used to do research about, like, Own Voices trans books, I say when you used to. 5 years ago, when you would do research about trans books, Matthew J. Metzger was one of the only names to come up, along with, like, E.E., Ottoman, and, the list was not long. So this was sent to me, actually, by Rebecca. Spy Stuff. This is about a guy who is, like, sure he's never going to have a true romance because no one is going to want a trans guy for her boyfriend, at least according to this, and then he meets this guy, they hit it off, it's incredible, but he doesn't think this guy knows he's trans, and he is, like, terrified by that. So thank you so much to Rebecca for sending me this, because I've wanted to read it for years. The last one from this stack is On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous by Ocean Vuong. This is a letter from a child to a mother who cannot read. It's a book that starts when the speaker, it says on the back, little dog is in his late 20s, and there is a letter that unearths this family history, and so this becomes a journey of figuring out this family history, exploring masculinity, race, class, what America looks like at the moment for a queer Vietnamese person. Ocean Vuong is mostly known for poetry, and I've heard this is, like, really literary, gorgeous writing, and it's going to break me. So I bought this from A Room of One's Own Books, and that is a queer-owned independent bookstore. I have another book that I got from them as well that I will talk about in just a second, but if you are curious and you want to know more about A Room of One's Own bookstore, check out the link to that in the description below. The other book that I got at A Room of One's Own is actually the first fantasy book in the fantasy stack, and this is a mix of fantasy and, like, realism. It is The Magic Fish. This is about a character who is kind of trying to figure things out through fairy tales. His parents are refugees who are struggling to understand English, and he doesn't know how to tell them that he is gay in Vietnamese. So this is a book about trying to figure out the right words for that, about coming out to parents and there being a language barrier with that, there being a cultural barrier with that. It does intersect fairy tales with realism, and it's got, like, such pretty single color, like, illustrations in different places. Like, ugh. Alright, I'm gonna be honest, most of these fantasy books, I have no idea. No idea what they're about. So, let's see how this goes. First we have The Coming Storm by Regina M. Hansen. This is an eerie book that sounds magical and kind of, like, fabulous. It's got a very intense sea setting with some folklore elements. I only know the aesthetic. I decided to read it based on the aesthetic. Cost of Knowing by Brittany Morris. I knew that Brittany Morris had a new book. Brittany Morris wrote a book called Slay, which, like, got really rave reviews the year it came out, but Cost of Knowing is also a book that combines, like, contemporary with fantasy. It's about a boy who, when he touches things, he can see a little element of the future, and at one point he touches his brother and sees that he is going to die. So I'm not totally sure how that works out to be part of the story, but I'm sure Brittany Morris is an incredibly talented author based on the reviews I've heard of her books. So, some more Simon & Schuster fantasy books. We have A Dark and Hollow Star. This is by Ashley Shuttleworth. And I need you to know that this girl on the cover, this girl with wings, do you see her? Do you see her and her wings? She's gay. So this involves the Fae, like, which is not something I read about. Typically, that's actually something that's on my anti-buzzword list. I do not read about the Fae. I don't know why, I don't care. But this, like, on the flap says for queer teens, so. And there are wings! I've read too much supernatural fanfiction in my life to be normal about characters having wings. I don't know what to tell you. We also have a book called Wings of Ebony by J.L. Sadly, I don't think those wings are literal. But this is a YA fantasy about a girl whose mom is murdered, and that is how she is whisked away and how she discovers that she is half god, half mortal. Thought that sounded pretty interesting. We have The Infinity Courts. This is by Akemi Dawn Bowman. I wanted to read this because I read Akemi's book, Summerbird Blue. This is about a girl who has huge plans and then she is killed. And she wakes up in a place called Infinity, where human consciousness goes when physical bodies die. And while she's there, this girl discovers that Ophelia, who is this virtual assistant on Earth, is in the afterlife posing as a queen and forcing humans into servitude. Also a bad situation. Do I have anything else from Simon & Schuster? Yes. Another sapphic fantasy! Seriously, like, the sapphic fantasy that Simon & Schuster has this year has been incredible. The Bitter Magic is about a girl named Tamsin who is a powerful witch who does something that she is not supposed to and is kicked out of her coven and basically cursed with the inability to love, and she wants to be able to get those feelings back, but the only way to do that is to steal that feeling from others. And then the other character is a character named Ren, so she strikes up a deal with Tamsin that Tamsin will help fix her father, and in exchange, Ren will give up her love for her father so that Tamsin can feel love, which is apparently a thing called a love bargain. It exists in this universe, and it's really, like, it's a whole thing. Really questionable sapphics doing magic. I think it looks incredible, and I love when girls get to hold hands on covers. You know this. I also have some books here from Inkyard Press. We have The Witch King. This is a YA fantasy with a trans gay main character, I think. It is another book that involves the Fae. So this is about, actually, a witch named Wyatt Croft. And in this world, the Fae rule, and witches do not. But Wyatt is betrothed to his best friend, Fae Prince Amir North. This marriage is supposed to change that, and then Wyatt loses control of his magic one night and he flees. It's bad. I don't know anything else about this, I just thought that sounded fascinating. So, we also have The City Beautiful. This is by Aidan Polidoros, and it is set in Chicago in 1893, which is around the time of the Chicago World's Fair. In case you're unaware, at the same time that the Chicago World's Fair was happening, there was also a serial murderer in Chicago. There's a book called The Devil in the White City about it, which I have actually read. Do not read nonfiction that often, but I've actually read that book, and I thought it was incredibly fascinating. This is set during that time. Specifically, it is about a character named Alter Rosen, who is in America. He's raising money and hoping he is going to eventually have enough money to bring his mother and sister to America from Romania. And then his best friend, Yakov, is murdered. He becomes the latest victim in this long line of murdered Jewish boys. And then he is possessed. Oh, I don't know how to pronounce this word. I meant to look it up before I started filming.
Dybbuk.
Dybbuk. We're going with Dybbuk, according to Google. Understand that I may be wrong, and correct me if you know differently in the comments. So, Alter is now possessed by Yakov's Dybbuk. Basically a concept from Jewish folklore that means that he's been possessed by a wandering spirit. He's been possessed by Yakov's spirit, and so he is trying to get rid of that spirit. He's also trying to solve this murder, and he ends up connected to a boy who he kind of has feelings for. So another queer book that I have here from Inkyard Press is These Feathered Flames by Alexandra Overy. These Feathered Flames is about twin heirs. Her and her sister now become like the center of power, and the two of them are trying to figure that out while trying to figure out who murdered their mother. There are some sapphic characters, and I believe an FF romance, and I've heard this is gonna be great. We also have Graceling by Kristen Kishore. This is the first book in a YA fantasy series. This is the new redesigned cover for Graceling, which is a YA fantasy set in this world where if you were born with two different colors of eyes, it means that you are graced. So you have some kind of magical ability, and the main character of Graceling is a character named Katza, who is basically graced with the ability to kill. This is one of my favorite YA fantasies of all time. Graceling was formative. I've read it several times. Katza and Katza's relationship in this book. I have multiple copies of this book, but here's the new paperback. We also have Beasts and Beauty, Dangerous Tales by Somen Chainani. This is a collection of stories, 12 dangerous tales of mystery, magic, and rebellious hearts. I've never read anything by Somen Chainani. I have heard a lot of things about the School for Good and Evil, but I haven't read it. I was just offered this book. I thought it sounded fascinating. I just keep trying to get more into anthologies and story collections. It's one of my favorites, so excited about this one. This one is coming out in September, so I will look for it then. I also have two other books here that I did reading vlog for. Fireborn and Flamefall by Rosaria Munda. This is books 1 and 2 of the Aurelian Cycle, a YA fantasy trilogy. This first book is about two characters who were raised in an orphanage together after their families were killed in very different ways. And after having been raised in this orphanage together, they are both at the top of the pack for becoming the new leaders of this team of dragon riders. The most revered role that you can have in the city. These are the designated protectors. The two of them, though, have this intense love for each other, but they also have this really intense, weird rivalry because only the two of them know about the realities of each of their pasts. And that becomes more and more central as really fucked up political stuff starts happening in the city. These are really political fantasy books that are, if you like a good enemies to lovers to enemies to lovers to enemies to enemies and lovers, maybe, that's these books for sure. They're super inspired by Plato's Republic and the Aeneid, and the second book introduces a central gay main character who literally at some point quoted the in-universe version of Achilles and Patroclus. Incredible. We also have a book called Upright Women Wanted. I believe this was sent to me. This is a fantasy book, a fantasy novella that's set in the distant future American Southwest. Let's see, the future American Southwest is full of bandits, fascists, and queer librarian spies on horseback trying to do the right thing. That is originally how I was sold this book. That's how I'm going to keep selling this book. I think I'm going to love it. I love a good Western-inspired thing, and, ever since The Mummy, me and librarians, we've had a close connection. The last fantasy book I have here is a book I purchased myself from Firestorm Books and Coffee, which is a book co-op and coffee shop, which I will leave linked in the description below, but that is queer-owned. Alazzo by Darcy Little Badger is set in a world that's supposed to be very similar to our own, but one where the world has been shaped by magic, by fairy tales and legends. This follows a character named Alazzo who has the ability to raise the ghosts of dead animals, and this is a skill that was passed on to her through her Lapanapachi family, and when her cousin is murdered, she takes advantage of this to try to solve the mystery of how her cousin was murdered, who killed her cousin, and various other things going on. And this also features an Arrow Ace main character, I believe Arrow Ace? Very least asexual, but I'm pretty sure Arrow Ace. And it is a gorgeous, gorgeous looking book. It's also got this underneath the cover, which I think is just like so pretty. Though I know middle grade isn't a genre, but I really wanted to put all of my middle grade books together because it just made sense in my brain. So I have a stack of 5 of them. We have Middletown by Sarah Moon. This is about 2 girls and their mother ends up in a rehab facility, and so the 2 of them lean on like subterfuge and then just straight up running to stay together. And one of the sisters is queer. I love a good queer middle grade. These are all queer middle grade. So we also have Star-Crossed by Barbara D. I believe this was also sent to me by my same friend who sent me The Henna Wars and Kiss Number 8. This is a story about 2 girls in middle school who are doing a school production of Romeo and Juliet, and a girl wants to be Romeo. These 3 books were all sent to me by the Harper Kids team, and got a variety of things. We have Hazel's Theory of Evolution by Lisa Jen Bigelow. Lisa Jen Bigelow wrote Drumroll Please, which is a queer middle grade book I really love. It's set at band camp. This is about a girl named Hazel who is just trying to figure things out. One of her moms is pregnant, so Hazel is just trying to focus on supporting her moms through this, and there's other stuff going on at middle school that she doesn't quite understand, and this is a middle grade book about an ace girl, so I think it's going to be wonderful. We also have Both Can Be True by Jules Machias. I don't know a ton about this. I didn't know anything about it until it was sent to me, but it is, I believe, about a gender fluid middle grader, which is incredible. It is a contemporary book, and it's about 2 kids who happen to meet and become very close friends. And we have a graphic novel, Joe, which is called An Adaptation of Little Women, sort of, by Kathleen Gross, and this is a middle grade retelling of Little Women that has queer shit. So in this retelling, Joe starts having feelings for a girl named Freddie, and as someone who watched Little Women and immediately was like, queer Joe. Joe is queer. Pretty excited. I have some nonfiction that I've been sent over a variety of time. So we have Sissy, A Coming of Gender Story by Jacob Tobiah. The only thing I know about Jacob Tobiah is that I believe they play a character in She-Ra. I've heard this is good. This is their memoir. We have The Stonewall Reader. This is edited by the New York Public Library and is a guide, a history to Stonewall and the Stonewall riots. It actually looks like this underneath the cover. It's just like a Penguin classic, but they sent me this new version with this lovely pink dust jacket. In college, I did my minor in women's and gender studies, and that intersected a lot with doing research on queer history and stuff, and obviously as someone who does education and uplifting queer shit online, I know a lot about Stonewall, but I was really excited to get this so that hopefully I can read more and learn a lot more about it. We also have Gender Identity, Sexuality, and Autism, Voices from Across the Spectrum by Ava A. Mendez and Meredith R. Maroney. This is a nonfiction book that is what it says on the tin. It's a it's a collection by a variety of queer autistic people talking about being autistic and being queer and what that means to them. I got this in June from Firestorm along with A Lot So and Dirty River, and very excited to read this. I'm also excited to read Dirty River, a queer femme of color dreaming her way home. This is a memoir. It starts in the 90s in Canada, and that's all I know about it. But I've heard it's really good. And we also have, the last nonfiction book I have here is a throwback. This was popular a while ago on BookTube. Furiously Happy by Jenny Lawson, a funny book about horrible things. This was big when I first joined BookTube. Everyone was reading Furiously Happy. I never got a chance to. And then, this is another one that it's on here because my sister really liked Furiously Happy. She read it a couple of years ago and highly recommended it to me. It's a book about dealing with mental health through humor. Very relatable. This was looks like a Value Village purchase, so it's fun to get this at Value Village. Happy to find it. Okay, I have some classics here. Classics has a variety of meanings in that these are each from different centuries. So I bought myself Much Ado About Nothing. This is a play by William Shakespeare, and I bought it because it is my favorite play by William Shakespeare. And I already own my second favorite, which is Twelfth Night. I still have my edition of Twelfth Night that I read in high school, which was this edition, so I just grabbed a copy. It was only a couple bucks, and I love it. Mostly because Much Ado About Nothing exudes the deepest chaotic bi energy. Oh my god. We also have Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. This is another book that was a gift from a friend. It was included in a little, like, bookish books and tea subscription box. I have a copy of Pride and Prejudice, but it's this little, like, paperback mass market, so I was so excited to have this, like, really pretty cloth-bound cover. I've seen these for years. They're so stunning. The last one, I mean, it is a classic. It's just a much newer classic, and that is The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison. This was published, I believe, in the 70s, I think in the year 1970. And it is about a young girl in 1941, a young black girl who wishes that she had blue eyes. She prays for her eyes to turn blue so that she will be as beautiful and beloved as all the blonde, blue-eyed children in America. This is a classic. A ton of people shout this out, and I have been, like, getting a bunch of Toni Morrison books in these editions, because I keep finding them at, like, Goodwills and half-price books, and it's great because I know I'm going to love Toni Morrison, and then I could just have this matching set when I eventually get to all of them. It's gonna work. We've got a couple of historical books. One of those is not really historical. I mean, it's kind of historical. You're all just gonna hate me. So, Your Heart, My Sky by Margarita Engel. This is set in 1991. I know. It's like, it's not really, but it technically. Oh, actually, this should have been in a different stack. That's okay. It's set in Cuba in 1991, and it is a novel in verse. I did not realize it was a novel in verse. And I believe this is about an unexpected connection or unexpected friends within that time period. We also have Last Night at the Telegraph Club by Melinda Lowe. This was sent to me by Penguin Teen, and I've been anticipating this book for a very long time. It originally was a short story in the anthology collection All Out, which I read and loved the year it came out, and it got expanded into a full novel. So this is set in San Francisco in the 1950s, and it is about a queer Chinese American named Lily who has a girl that she really thinks, like, she really likes, and it is about her and her family in this area of San Francisco in the 1950s. I also have my one sci-fi book on here, Nine Fox Gambit by Yoonha Lee, which I can't tell you anything about because I don't know. I know that it's queer and Asian and difficult to describe, and that it's got spaceships. And that's good enough. For the most part, I read sci-fi. Like, sci-fi and contemporary are my preferred genres, so it's wild that my fantasy stack was this ridiculous, and this is my only sci-fi book, but I've heard enough good things about this that, like, it's worth it. I'm glad. I found this at the Goodwill for $3 fucking dollars, and I've wanted to read it for years. Sometimes I win when it comes to the Goodwill. The shirt that I'm wearing, I love it so much. Goodwill. We're getting to the bottom, so I have a couple of, like, mystery/thrillers, and I don't know anything about them. We have The Lying Game by Ruth Ware. Ruth Ware books, like, don't have descriptions on the back. I don't know what the deal is with that, but I read In a Dark, Dark Wood last year and really liked it. It really got me to that, like, cozy, creepy, classic mystery feel. So I decided to pick up a few other Ruth Ware books. I have this one. I have The Death of Mrs. Westaway, so we'll see when I get to these, but I don't know what it's about. And then we also have My Sister the Serial Killer. This is by Oyina Khan Braithwaite. I originally bought this in paperback, loaned the paperback to my sister. Do you see a theme with my life? But then I went shopping and I found this adorable little hardcover, so I told my sister she could keep the paperback. And this is mine. This is supposed to be like a darkly comedic book about a girl whose sister's a serial killer. I know that this one is not really a thriller, like people who've gone into this and been expecting a thriller are not. It's not, but it's very much about, like, these sisters and the really dark thing that this book centers on. And finally, we have poetry. My god, we're at the end. So first, let me talk about this novel in verse, Muted, by Tammy Charles. I believe this is about a Haitian lesbian? Yeah, Haitian lesbian protagonist, and it is about her and two friends trying to break into the music industry. And like I said, it's a novel in verse, so I'm very into novels in verse recently, I've discovered, so I'll probably be reading that pretty soon. We also have Black Girl Call Home, poems by Jasmine Mans. This is a poetry collection about race, feminism, and queer identity. I'm sure this is going to be absolutely gorgeous. As a queer person who went to school in New Jersey, I mean, there's that, but also I love poetry and poetry involving, like, queerness and race. I read it a lot. We also have second to last, Nectar. This is by Upile Chisala, and this was sent to me by Kirsten, who actually sent me Upile's collection Soft Magic last year. So Nectar is another poetry collection that I'm guessing is going to be about, like, blackness, beauty. These are incredibly short poems, but I adore them. Like, I loved Soft Magic so much. It was one of my faves last year, so thrilled that Kirsten sent me Nectar, because I'm ready for obsession to happen with this too. And the last thing that I have to talk about for this 6-month haul is Soft in the Middle by Shelby Eileen. I read this book last year, but I read it on my Kindle because there was a day when all of Shelby Eileen's poetry was, like, free, so I got all of it, and I've been reading all of it, and after how much I loved Soft in the Middle, I wanted my own copy. This is a collection about queerness, body, identity issues, and, like, anxiety. Specifically, it's getting into ace stuff, like being sapphic, and then body love, but also by engaging with fat phobia and homophobia. Shelby Eileen writes really gorgeous poetry. I've read multiple of their collections, but Soft in the Middle just hit something so specific inside me about, like, anxiety and sexuality and self-image that there's so many gorgeous lines in this collection. I really need to transfer my notes from my Kindle copy to here. I'm just thrilled to have a physical copy, really. Okay, all. That is it. Those are all of the books that I have acquired in the last 6 months. If there are any of these books that really stood out to you that you wound up adding to your TBRs, please let me know in the comments below. And let me know if there are some of these that, like, I didn't know as much about that I should learn more about, because they need to be moved to the top of my TBR. What do I need to move around priority-wise? Thank you all so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I hope you liked this video, and I hope that that you stick around and maybe watch some of my other content, who's to say? Seriously though, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in another video very soon. Bye!